We got the body back on the table. Here's our burn mark that we put in there using the soldering iron method, so I think that's good. And now we're going to start putting hardware together, putting hardware on this thing. I think we'll start off with, actually start off with the neck and get in that right here. So we got the neck. Here it is. And obviously earlier videos have showed a lot of how we got to this point. I reaffixed our logo. It had flown off when we were buffing it. I did it with the help of a little bit of white glue, sort of diluted in some water. And we're back in business, right? That's back on there, good to go. All right, so first thing we're gonna do is maybe, let's see, find our Allen wrenches. Got those. So we got our Allen wrenches, and we got ourselves our Phillips head screwdriver, our wax, and our tuners, as well as our stop bar and our locking nuts. So first, let's go ahead maybe and do the let's do the locking nut first. Why not? All right, so I've got two locking nuts that I need to decide upon. They're both R2 nuts, right? I think I'm going to use the original Kramer one. This is a nickel nut from Floyd Rose. It's a new nut that I got from Floyd, from the company, and they're great to deal with. You know, you can get stuff from them really quickly. You know, and Floyd Rose is definitely one of my heroes, having invented this thing. And I was lucky enough to actually, Three Monkeys, we were lucky enough to build him an amplifier. He approached us about getting an amp for himself, and I was happy to build that thing for him. I'll tell you, that was like a dream come true. I mean, he is definitely a hero of mine. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and put this nut on here. So we're going to take off these. They're in there pretty good. We're going to take off these Allen head nuts here. Bolts and nuts and bolts, right? I always get them confused. Okay, so we got this one off. We've got the little lock washer still there, which is cool. So we got that. Okay, this one's a little looser. Might put a little wax on those threads too. Now we're just going to put it in place, and I'm sure that R2 nuts are consistent even today versus back then, but I'm just going to check to see what the string height would be around the first fret. And the way I do that quickly is to take a straight edge, like a little metal straight edge, seat the nut, and then take this here and kind of see if it drops. And we've got a drop. So I think that's pretty good, but I've also got a shim here, which I think I'm still going to use. Let's see what that comes up like. Yeah, I think we don't want really a whole lot of buzzing on this guitar. I'd rather have the action a slight bit high than a slight bit low, and maybe that's, you know, not popular. I mean, I think there was an interview with Van Halen where he was talking about, if the strings ain't buzzing, I ain't playing it. So maybe that's the case. I don't know. Maybe I'll take the shim out. But we'll start with the shim. So we got our first screw seated, but using a little bit of wax just to help. So I mean, these parts are, you know, I don't know, what is it, almost 35, 40 years old. It's got to have a little corrosion on it. And put one in at a time. Leave one loose. And then you can kind of get the second one in there a little bit easier. So I'm having a little trouble seating the second one into the thread. That's could be a result of the shim. Could be the result of my stupidity. They're equally problematic. So we're going to go and line up the second one. Actually, it's not my problem at all. The screw is not going through here. There we go. there was a little bit of an obstruction preventing me from getting the nut through the hole. Might have been a little bit of paint in there, piece of trash that got sort of melded in with the paint. We can go ahead now and try to get this nut seated. Okay, we're on the thread now. There we go. Tighten it down. And that's seated pretty well right there. Looks good. Yeah, I think that was probably a good idea. After the nut hugged the nut back down again, after the screws really kind of firmly seated it, we definitely have, I think, the right string height there. Okay, so that's on. Next, I think we're going to do the tuners. So I'm going to put my Allen wrench aside, and we're going to get to our tuners. I got my bag here. Now, these are not vintage tuners. I know we used vintage Gotos, or Gotos of the era, which is what Kramer had a lot of in the B era. In the C era, I think they used Schallers. That was what's on my C era. What was it, Pacer? The one with the pickguard on it. But the Imperial had the Gotos on it, sort of crown head, and they were actually, the one that I got, it's got gold hardware on it, gold tuners. So anyway, we're going to use these. And these are new production with a 90-degree tab. They've been on this guitar already, so there isn't a whole lot to do. We're basically going to turn these down. Right, get them in. And these are metric, so I'm just going to go and get my 10mm socket and a wrench, and we can use this for just kind of torquing it all down. All right, and then we can just give it a quick loosen so we can line it up. I'm going to turn this light on. I know the camera works better for some reason with it off, but we're going to use it right now on. All right, so we've got that. I'm going to take out our tuner screws, put them up here. And I like using styrofoam too, because you can kind of put your screws in the foam, and that way you don't lose them. And you can even kind of put them in areas like your pickguard screws, so you can put the pickguard screw back in the same place it was, which is probably really OCD, but I'm fine with that. Now, wax your screws, or you're going to break them more often than if you don't wax them. So we're going to go ahead and just send that home. There we go. And with the wax, I mean, it goes in easy, like butter. Okay, so there's our first tuner. Surprised I don't have these marked as to what hole they were in. That's unlike me. Usually I would do something nutty like that. Looks good there. Go ahead and screw, wax, screwdriver. Okay. Now I've had some suggestions that I do time lapse or kind of, you know, cut the camera out more and try to make each video shorter. You know, I think that kind of leaves that in my hands, whereas you can always skip ahead if you sort of aren't interested in seeing all of this, but you know, some people enjoy watching just, you know, grass grow. Could be zen in the art of Frankenstrat building, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to carve these up into shorter pieces so I don't end up with like 35-minute or 40-minute long videos. So today I'm just uploading them probably 10, 15 minutes longest as I'm going to go for, and break it up into the different things. So like for this little cut here, it's going to be, you know, installing tuners and the locking nut and the string retainers. Okay, get that lined up, send her home. I mean, you can see sort of how the paint really makes these holes, which were originally clear for these size tuners, shrink up, right? Because you get the solvent in there and the wood expands and contracts, and you've got issues with paint getting in there as well. So that's sort of why I leave things like this, the Floyd studs, the posts, and the potentiometer hole, things like that, I'll leave till the very end. That way I don't have to worry about the wood swelling and kind of messing up my hole and having to make me do it all over again. Okay, that's really home now. So I'm just snugging these tuners down to the wood. There's still a little bit of a gap, and I'll re-tighten the back nut. There we go. Get on to the next one. So yeah, so I'm just going to try to break it up more, but I think it's good to watch the whole thing. Which sometimes, you know, while you're recording something, I'm just going to clear out a little bit of, you can see a chip of paint in there. Sometimes when you're doing this, you come up with an unexpected problem, or not an unexpected problem, but let's say a typical problem that you encounter in that operation somewhat frequently, and you don't have the camera running, so you really can't describe like how you deal with, you know, hey, this happened or that happened, and what do I do now, sort of a thing. So we're kind of doing it live, so whatever problems I'm having, you're seeing, you know, and there's no build that goes smoothly. Everything always, you know, takes a little bit longer. Everything's always a little bit more complicated. Things fight you. You know, like this is fighting me right now. I won't be surprised if I snap the headstock. Right? That would be funny. For you guys. Not so much for me, but we could always build another one. Right? Not a big deal. It's another good thing about these kinds of guitars is, you know, they're already so beat up and have been so beat up that you really can't tell when something is, you know, destroyed on purpose or by accident. Just had to clear out that hole of a little bit of paint with the scribe. There's a little scribe guy from Stu Mac. I can't tell you what it, you know, what I use that for. It's for everything. Amp building, guitar building, poking people on the subway. I don't know if anybody listening is from New York or has been there, but I remember back in the 70s, what was it? There was freaks riding around on the subway trains that go around poking people with pins. When the cars were packed. And what are you going to do? You can't tell who did it. It's just ridiculous. I mean, I got to tell you, New York in the 70s was insane. It really was. There's no way to explain it to anybody who didn't live through it. I mean, what you see, like when you go up to New York City now, that's like fantasy land, right? I mean, when I was a kid and we were, you know, I grew up there, the graffiti had graffiti. I mean, every square inch of that place, it seemed, was just caked in graffiti. The subway cars were just obviously. That's the most popular sort of well-known meme of New York, right? Is a completely just trashed subway car with bubble letter graffiti all over it. And I grew up in that, and it seemed normal to me. And when it kind of went away, in some ways I missed it. You know? Every wall tagged up. But now when I go back, it's kind of nice to see that it's no longer like that. I mean, it was a mess. Some more wax. I don't know what the hell the point of what I was saying was. Just more stories. Looks like the LED light's giving out. It's starting to flicker. That probably didn't help. That should do well for not causing seizures. Right? Get the flicker rate just right. Alright, that is tightened down. Alright, so we got that done. Next is going to be, what are we going to put here next? Let's put on the little string retainer. The little one, not the big one. Here we go. And I've just got an all parts one here. I know that his look differently. But I don't have one like that, so I'm just going to use this for now. And it's an all parts modern nickel string retainer with a little spacer, nylon spacer underneath it. Alright, so we got that there. That's good. Now we're going to the string bar. And this is my favorite right here, being that it's the round kind, not the flat bar kind. Originally, this is how they looked, right? They were a round bar. Now, they kind of look like this. They have a flat, they're bigger, number one, and they have a flat side to them, right? They're much bigger. You can see right there. So, we're putting this away back in the dime bag. Another New York story for later. And we're going to put this into our holes here. Well, interesting enough, I mean, like we said before, the hole spacing is still the same as it is today. So they didn't change that, but they did change the bar. And I'm glad that I got one of these with the tremolo that I got off of eBay, which is very nice. Otherwise, I was going to make one out of some bar stock. Wouldn't be too difficult to do, but still, having the real one is a lot better. All right, so there we have the headstocks ready to go. And we can do the same kind of thing with the paper and the soldering iron, you know, going in there and burning out the lacquer here. For all the cigarette burns, because I'm not going to be lighting up cigarettes in my house. I mean, I quit smoking a while ago and I don't really enjoy it anymore. So, all right, so we got the headstock done. So I think this is going to be enough for here. And in the next video, we're going to start messing with the body, putting some hardware on there. Okay,